Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Meister Tarot. Wearing my little beautiful spring shirt here today. The weather is glorious. The wind is blowing, so it's a nice cool breeze. And I do apologise if it's a little bit bright here. I'm still trying to find spots in the house to read that have the right amount of sun and the right amount of shade, and a lovely view as well. So I've got a view out over the tops of the houses and all the trees, and it's really rather lovely in Australia this time of year before it gets too hot. So doing a reading today, again, it's one of my sort of overview readings, and what I'm going to talk about today and read on today is the decline in bee and insect populations worldwide. This is an indicator of the health of the earth, and what has happened, and will we recover from it, and what steps can we take. So I'm actually going to use, because this is an earth reading, I'm using my Lightseers Tarot. Beautiful cards. There's the box there. Lightseers, it's my family and friends and Mother Earth deck that I use. Very easy to read and just beautiful cards protected by the rose quartz that sits in the box with them. So as a very brief, I thought it was quite relevant, the fact that, COP26 is undergoing at the moment in regards to, climate change, health of the planet, humanity. One thing that seems to be forgotten by those who are obsessed with obscene wealth and power and greed, and those that often are, the leaders of countries because we've voted them in, often because of their promises of wealth and greed and an improved life, supposed improved lifestyle from a financial and materialistic manner. What we often forget, but I think there's a shift in worldwide thinking, but what has often been forgotten in the past, and still is to a certain degree today, is that without a healthy earth, humanity cannot survive. So, we need to remember that we need Earth, we need our Mother Earth to be healthy. She does not need us. So if humans were all to sort of fall off the planet and float away into space tomorrow, she would actually probably be quite happy and make a fantastic recovery. You only have to look at places like Chernobyl, where they've had massive nuclear meltdowns, and the wildlife repopulation that has occurred in has it been 30 years? 30 years since, nature's come in and taken back over, where it's considered unsafe for people and animals to be, but the animals seem to be, moved back in, the deer and the wolves and the birds, and, the wildlife is just doing its thing and recovering, and you often see that in abandoned cities and parts of the world where humans get out of the way and nature is absolutely fabulous at repairing itself. So, it is something that is oft forgotten in discussions, that we need her, she doesn't need us. So perhaps we need to appreciate more. Now, I think what's happened is there has been a mind shift worldwide that at a base level, people as well as industries have come to realise this. Well, I think what's happened is the industries are realising it because the communities are realising, the everyday people are realising that you can't neglect your house, you can't abuse your house, you can't set fire to your house, not fix the roof, let the plumbing leak. You can't not maintain a healthy home without it actually adversely affecting yourself. So what's happened is I think the everyday person has realised that, and industry is moving along, getting on board. Governments, sadly, are taking a bit longer. They seem to listen to the noisy minority who are fearful of changing the status quo, even if it is for something that's advantageous and better for themselves. Perfect example is, the fear of moving away from fossil fuels and coals to renewables in Australia now. Those of us that are forward thinking and are not afraid of change can see that the move toward Australia is perfectly primed to become a world leader in renewable energy, jobs, technology, intellectual property, and actually producing and exporting the product to the rest of the world. But those that are in the industries that will be affected, for example, coal and gas, cannot, a lot of them do see the change, but there is a noisy minority that cannot somehow see this transition, how it will affect them. And same in the US with the political opposition to the Green New Deal. They're in a similar situation. It will actually produce jobs, it will produce healthier lifestyles, longer lives, more prosperity, better food, better water, better air, but there is a noisy minority that is funding a certain sector of their government over there and are being listened to, and therefore making change extremely difficult. Whereas personally I find it very logical is to make these changes for the betterment of everything. And when I don't mean everybody, I mean everything. So what I really want to have a little drill down onto today, as I get off my soapbox, I do apologise. I have this soapbox that gets dragged out on regular occasions, much to my partner's frustration, is a major indicator of the health of the planet is the insect, bird populations throughout the world. The increased use in pesticides, the decrease in bees due to various reasons such as pesticides, but also the varroa mite virus, is of great concern, and it does reflect on the health of the planet. So Australia is one of the few countries that is mite free for our bee populations. We have a very strong bee population. Unfortunately, a lot were wiped out in the recent bushfires of the 1920 black summer season. But we actually export a lot of our beehives to countries like the US for pollination of almond crops, orange crops, etc. So what will happen is we send our bees over, they get set up in these big orchard systems, they pollinate an orchard system, they get packed up, moved to the next orchard system, and they basically get used until the colony is no longer viable and dies out, because in the US there is quite a massive pesticide use. Now, if you study your soil health and plant health and insect health all as one component, don't look at them individually, what you find is that if you have healthy soils, you tend to have healthy plants, and therefore you don't have the predatory insect populations, but also biodiversity in your planting increases the populations of predatory insects. And when I say predatory, they're the ones that feed on the bad insects. So, for example, ladybirds on aphids, etc., for using a backyard example. So biodiversity in your plant life also. So soil health, vital, because studies are now showing that if you have unhealthy soil, you have unhealthy plants. Now you can pump them full of water and base nutrients, so your nitrogen, potassium, and can't remember the third one, but the NPK combination, pump them through it full of fertilizer, full of water. It forces them to grow. They don't have the base nutrients. Insects flying over can actually detect these crops as being unhealthy through their they can see a broader spectrum than humans, and it's infrared or something like that. They can actually detect the unhealthy crops, and they will attack those crops. Farmers spray the pesticides and kill off all the insects, but it comes down to soil health. So by pumping full of water and full of the three base nutrients that force these plants to grow, you actually end up with unhealthier food as well. So strange as it might sound, all of nature is intertwined. Healthy soils, healthy plants don't get the insect attack as much, and also the monocultures are causing massive issues as well, in that the broadacre farming of crops such as wheat and barley, soybeans, etc., when you've got thousands of acres or hundreds of hectares, however you think in terms of the same crop, means that you're not getting any insect diversity, which means you're not getting the beneficial insects as well, which means you're not getting the birds which would be eating the insects, which it just exacerbates the entire problem. So few things that I want to look at. Sorry about, what's that, 12 minutes of me blathering on. So in the US, recent studies have shown that the bird population in the US has actually declined by about 30% in the last 50 years, approximately 3 billion birds less in the US. Now, some varieties of birds are actually increasing, for example, water birds, waterfowl, but the grass dwellers and the scrubland dwellers are being the hardest hit, so losing the diversity. Germany has also noted that has lost about 70% of its insect population. A lot of this is due to pesticide use and change in land use. However, birds in Europe in general have declined by only about 4%, because they are a lot older agricultural wise, so therefore the birds have previously managed to adapt to the clearing and the farming, and also the European farm practices don't tend to have the massive broadacre farming that the US and South America and Australia undertake. Again in Europe, their waterfowl have increased. So it's quite interesting that the water birds have increased, but it is the ground dwellers that are decreasing. And I wonder if the water dwellers have increased because of warming, and therefore the insect population around these waterways has also increased. It's just a bit of food for thought. So I just want to have a quick read. Now, Europe have recently banned certain pesticides. They've banned certain weed killers, which can only be for the better. I mean, I was quite horrified to learn that in the US, when they harvest their wheat, they actually spray the crops prior to harvesting with weed killer or plant killer to kill off the crops themselves, which means that the harvesting is less severe on the equipment, because it's you're thrashing dead matter rather than green, stringy and fibrous matter, trying to get the grain out. But you also have to wonder, how much of that is left in the food that is actually consumed. So that's my little greeny soapbox. I eat commercial processed food. I grow some in my vegetable garden, but my veggie garden's only new at the moment. So, I can't really preach terribly much, but I just find it interesting that, modern agricultural methods, deforestation, etc., are having such a profound effect. So just want to have a quick read on overall read. I mean, you even notice driving down the highway. Oh, just excuse me a minute. I'm going to shut some windows. The neighbours decided to mow his lawns. Hang on a sec. Okay, what I was getting at was that what you'd find in most of these, most countries now, first world countries, driving down the roads. I remember as a child, your windscreen would be covered in bugs and your license plate would be covered in bugs and they'd be stuck all in your grill, and it was an awful mess. Just doesn't happen nowadays. You can drive all night, and on a warm, balmy night, you might get one or two if you're lucky. So, just shows that there's just not the insect population there that used to be, and if there's not the insect population, then there's nothing for the birds and the frogs and the other insect-reliant colonies to feed on, which means they also decline, either through reduced breeding or through starvation. And then it has a flow-on effect, because then these animals are not cleaning up the waterways, they're not sifting through the undergrowth, they're not excreting their waste products to re-nourish the soils. So it just has a quite a vicious cycle. So I just want to ask, and then you get the other extreme of the locusts, and that's what I'm talking about when it goes bad. It goes, when I'm talking about insects that we don't want, like the locust plagues. Climate change is also creating these. I mean, I know there's always been locust plagues, it goes back to the Bible, but what happens is then you don't have the predatory the birds, etc., that would keep the locusts under some form of control. Just doesn't happen. And then because of the monocultures, they find crop after crop after crop after crop to feed on without break, which just breeds up their numbers and exacerbates the whole problem. Okay, so after 18 minutes of me waffling on my little soapbox, again I apologise, just want to have a quick look at, I'll do an extended Celtic cross, so it will be, I'll just do two. Tell me about the future of the insect population worldwide. Tell me about the future of the insect population worldwide. Then it can tell me what it needs to tell me, rather than me trying to force a question. Please, Master, tell me about the insect population, the future of the insect population worldwide. Okay, let's have a look. Signifier strength, compassionate strength, crossed by betrayal. And you've got the birds here, humanity betraying the birds. The strength of Mother Earth. We're at a point where we have choices to make. The past, working together, creating. This is building a foundation. This is in the past. I'm not quite sure why that's there. We'll have a look in a minute. Mother Earth, the Empress, is crowning the reading. Move that back a bit and see if we can get a better all-round view. And the sun's shining on the table at the moment, so I do apologise if it makes it difficult to see. Actually, I might move back slightly. Hang on. That's better. I've moved back slightly out of the sun. So here we've got Mother Earth, never to be underestimated. Near future King of Cups. So what you've got here is a wise mentor, but also authority figures. He's a diplomatic and emotionally balanced. So this is the potential, near future, the immediate future. Why am I not surprised? The devil, temptation, greed, and the devil is reinforced by death and rebirth. Unauthentic, reinforced by authentic change, the ending and a new beginning. Hopes and fears, a new start. Oh, this is actually quite positive. A new start. This is the insects. New start, faith and courage, the youth of the world. Moving out of troubled waters. Queen of Pentacles, she is a practical, all queens are a practical figure. She's, Pentacles are an earth symbol. And she's quite beautifully sitting there amongst the earth and the world. So, the end of a cycle and a new beginning. Well, I am pleasantly surprised about this, but what I'm seeing here is these three cards along the bottom, that we have choices that we need to make. They need to be made soon. The immediate future is the temptation of greed, and he is surrounded by death and rebirth. Death and rebirth of the life that we know. But I think what's going to happen is I've brought the hopes and fears as the Fool, which is the youth, a new start. I've got the Empress, Mother Earth, abundance and prosperity crowning the reading. Choices at the bottom here. That means we need to make choices, and they need to be made soon. But we've got strength as the signifier. Now, strength was crossed by betrayal. And this is, I mean, it's quite poignant. It's got a bird in it. This is humanity. Killing a bird, sticking it in your backpack. But looking at the outcome, so we're moving on, being drawn by the birds. Practical earth, common sense, and a new beginning. So actually, for my 18 minutes of depressing spiel, it's actually quite a good outcome. I'm not quite sure what this is in the past, the Pentacles. I think what this is the foundations have been laid for this. The studies have been done. The awareness is now here, and we just need to get rid of this. But that's the immediate future, and I think what that is that's the government's not having caught up. Corporate greed, big business not having caught up with the science and the humanity. I think what's happening is the world is reaching, the Mother Earth is reaching a stage where she will give us a prompt. The first time round, she'll give us a little tap and say, well, time to take notice. And if we ignore that, the next time round, she'll give us a slap up the side of the head and say you need to take notice. And if we ignore that, next thing we know is we've got the Mack truck, the big rig, clobbering us on the sidewalk. And she says, have you taken notice now? And I think that's what's happened, is that, I mean, this data's been out. We've been warned since the 1970s that this was coming, and have ignored it and ignored it and ignored it. And then you had Kyoto, and that was all a bit, you know, oh, rah-rah, nothing happened. Then we had Paris, it was all rah-rah, nothing happened. But I think what's happened now is that it has come of its time. So that was the insects. I'm going to have a specific look at the bees. The bees worry me with the varroa mite. They're now, especially in Australia, they're breeding resistant bee colonies. It is very concerning. A lot of they specifically attack the European honeybee, which was one of the world's major pollinators. I'm not sure whether they're in the I don't think they're in the native bee colonies, but they can't do the heavy lifting that the honeybees do in regards to mass pollination. I mean, they help out in their way, and they are a vital part of the ecosystem. But I just want to have a quick look. Tell me about the future of the honeybee. Now, you know, the US really does make me sort of really pause with the fact that they actually have to bring bees in from overseas to be able to have enough to pollinate your vital crops. To me, that just beggars belief that we actually have to ship them from the other side of the world due to, you know, the abuse of the land through chemical use means that you can't breed your own over there. But I just want to have a look. The future of the honeybee. The future of the honeybee, please. The future of the European honeybee. Okay, let's have a look. Okay, we are at a point where we need to make a difficult decision. Plans are being made. We're looking at distant horizons, so it's difficult decision needs to be made, looking at and being crossed by looking at the distant future, plans for the distant future. Underlying is the Five of Pentacles, despair, outcast in the cold, in the past, happy families, oh yeah, she'll be right, which is this classic Australian saying, oh, here comes the devil again. So at the moment, yeah, you've got your greed, your addiction, the addiction to toxins. Knight of Swords, a harsh truth is going to be exposed in the near future. The immediate future is karma's coming back to bite us on the bum. We have a decision to make for the future of Mother Earth. This is in our hopes and fears. This is very much a hope. There will be disappointment. This is the bees. Spilt disappointment. There is still one little basket there with these beautiful lights in it. So we need to say, right, okay, this is what's happened, but we need to take notice of this and nurture this. And this is the nurturing them back. And again, it will be the youth that come through with their uncovering of the truth, their ideas, their light bulb moments, as you can see with the light bulbs, their scientific knowledge, Queen of Swords. So a compassionate leader who is perceptive and encompassing of the diversity. She is a perceptive, compassionate person. Leadership, overlooking her realm, aware of the truth, with intellect. Goes with the Page of Swords. So, okay, the future of the honeybee is at the moment this sort of energy. Now, without the bees pollinating, humanity, a lot of our crops, I think something like about 40% of our food will not produce. Some areas of the world we're barely producing enough as it is to feed the population, so we need to take care of our bees. Reflection, introspection, and it will happen. But again, it will be, we have to overcome the corporate greed, the temptation for the easy path, but it will again be the youth. So, okay, we've done the insects and the bees. I want to have a quick look at the birds. Now, without the insects, and with land clearing and lack of habitat, it is impinging on our bird wildlife. Throw in some wildfires and some drought and some floods, and it just exacerbates the whole problem. And the birds really are, excuse the pun, after frogs, but frogs are not quite so visible, so we'll say the birds are the canary in the coal mine as to the health of the planet. So tell me about the future of the birds. Now, what's happening? I was listening to someone yesterday saying that the geese in Chicago, normally long gone south for the winter, are still in the area because it's so warm. And I think that's what a lot of the water birds are increasing in population, because they are finding the wetter, warmer climes in some areas are suiting them, whereas the land dwellers are struggling. But please tell me the future. How will the birds go? The birds of the world. Future of the birds. What can we do? Provide habitat, whether it be artificial or natural. Provide food, whether again it be human provided or planting bird-friendly plants in your garden, attracting birds to the garden, attracting insects, both beneficial, but the non-beneficial insects bring the beneficial insects. So attracting insects, attracting birds. Being consciously aware of where your food comes from. Supporting farmers who are regenerating their soils, adding topsoil and humus and organic matter, which is also a fabulous carbon sink, but also by improving the soils, it improves the water holding capacity of the soil, so, you know, not so subject to drought, deeper roots, all that goes with it. So tell me about the birds. About the birds. Right. Quite determined that last one was to stop there, wasn't it? Okay, Page of Pentacles. Again, the youth. So what we've got with Pentacles is, pages are all messengers, but these are, the Page of Pentacles is dream big and work hard. Crossed by the Two of Pentacles, so there is juggling, decisions to be made, some uncomfortable decisions. Base of the pack is the Four of Wands, which is celebration. Past Page of Wands, so again the youth. Now these are the ideas aplenty, which matches up fabulously with the dream big and work hard. Two of Cups, so coming together, agreements, contracts, relationships, working together now. I'm getting the feeling that this is both corporations and this is corporations working with better practices of production. Four of Swords can be retreat, but in this particular deck I just see it as taking care of yourself. Don't letting yourself get too worked up. When things happen, when the change begins, it will happen very quickly, supported by the King of Wands. Now look at the line of strength in the background of this card. So the King of Wands, you know, kings are, you know, wise, mentoring figures. He's honourable, he is empowering, he is a visionary. So what will happen is that when the positives start occurring, brought about by the big ideas of the youth of today, it will become very visionary. People will see. Eight of Pentacles, choices, hopes and fears, can be illusion and delusion. But many choices to be made of which path to follow. Right, so potential outcome. There's going to be a lot of infighting to start with, as there is resistance to change. But what will happen is that people will en masse walk away from what's not working for them, and what they'll realise once they start seeing success stories occur by those that are nurturing the soils, which increases the insect life, which is bringing the birds back, the biodiversity, etc., etc. And biodiversity can be as easy as just simply planting hedgerows between your cropping fields. They don't need to be extensive land, but it just gives the birds somewhere, the birds and insects somewhere to rest and pause and breed. If you've got a 20 hectare paddock, put a hedgerow down one side of it before you've got the next 20 hectare paddock. Yes, it does take a little bit of land. Yes, you may lose a very small amount of crop, but the benefits will far outweigh. So this is once producers start seeing the success stories, they will walk away from this, which is not working for them. It will be slow and steady, but the Knight of Pentacles, he is moving forward in a solid fashion, which will actually be financially beneficial in the long run. So he's a slow, steady knight, diligent, reliable. And then the Ace of Wands. So this is a new beginning, a new way of thinking in regards to our passions. Oh, and then the Ace of Cups on the bottom. So new emotional beginnings, new relationships. The Queen of Wands. So this is the base of the cup. Base of the pack. Queen of Wands. She is inspiring woman. She is inspiring. She is confident. She is self-aware. She knows who she is, what needs to be done. Complete inspiration. So new emotional beginning, inspiring. And then you've got Temperance. So a rebalancing. So all round, and I have read on the future of Mother Earth in the past, and again, all round, what I'm getting is that humanity is moving on, doing what's right. We will get there. Earth has an amazing ability to heal. We just need to enable her to do what she needs to do, get out of the way, and let Mother Earth get on with it. Okay, I hope you found that vaguely inspiring. You know, they are heavy topics, and I do apologise for the soapbox at the beginning, which I seem to step up onto often on these particular topics. So I hope you found that helpful and optimistic. And any questions, put them below, and I shall see you next time. Love to you all, and have a fabulous day. Bye-bye.